Hyperbolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Hyperbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
All right, guys, we got a special episode for you guys. This is coming to you live on Tuesday. Usually they come live on Monday.
We got a, extra special little treat for you guys this week.
Well, I wanted to talk about this while it was fresh.
Yeah.
And Evan had some personal stuff come up, so he couldn't make it to the Arnold, but he was watching live.
I did watch all of it, yes.
Even the NPC portion, because you were messaging me during that.
Yep. I watched almost every single bit of it.
Yeah, and I think the fun thing about going to the first big show of the year is you see some things, and nobody that I know predicted the winner of the pro show, which is very hard to do because it's usually, I think more predictable.
Yeah. I know that. I mean, even after I told you after prejudging for Bikini, the pros, Paul, I had predicted that Amy was going to win the show. But that's not what happened. And honestly, I'm super happy with who won, Vania. I mean, congratulations to her. It was awesome. But it was kind of cool getting to see somebody win that I don't think anybody was expecting to take that title.
I'll tell you from my standpoint, watching it, when everyone came out to their first individual routines, when Vanya walked out, she stood out to me more than any other competitor. During her individual, I was like,
yeah,
wow.
Even in person, she stood out. However, Amy looked the best I've ever seen her. So
yeah.
The fact that she's been on such a run, really the only show she's ever placed poorly at was the Olympia. And by poorly, I mean sixth.
Right.
So for her to come out, look that good and still get beaten, listen, I didn't get feedback for what the difference was between them. But in my mind, I think Vanya's just got more balance.
That's what I was thinking. I'm very curious because I'm sure Tyler will put out like a top 3 to 5 recap. So then we'll get a lot of clarity as to like what set those two apart. I mean, the biggest thing if I had to guess, would be what you said, Paul, the balance. I think especially in the lower body, because I still think this is just me guessing that maybe Amy's glute was a little too dominant in her front pose compared to the leg. Now I know in the past, I think this was like 2 seasons ago, I think she actually got feedback that her quads were too dominant or too dense. So I know she worked to bring those down. But that would be my only guess, because I really do think like that was her best. I mean, I've never seen her look better on stage that day, but I think Vanya just overall balance, and Vanya's, and I've said this before, Vanya's stage presence is just, it's very much so a lot like Lauralee, where it's very captivating. She's very fluid. She's very, just poised. So I think her stage presence really stands out in a very positive way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, so let's go through kind of the weekend in order of events. So Thursday we actually were at the well, you guys didn't get there yet, but the amateur show, which they do give out 2 pro cards at, and I actually had a few people ask me questions. So let me go into the Instagrams. Did you guys watch the live stream for that?
Yes, watched every bit of the bikini. I think I caught a little bit of wellness, but I mainly wanted to see that amateur bikini show because I was super curious what it was going to look like compared to last year. Like we were all 3 at the amateur bikini portion last year, and I think we were all pretty surprised by how small it was, just number wise. And I mean, this year it seemed like it was a lot bigger. And I mean, like all of those girls looked really good.
Much better this year.
Yeah.
Much better. Yeah, I think the quality of the competitor definitely came up across the board. The girl that won the overall last year probably still would have got the pro card. She would not have won the overall. The overall winner was a spectacular competitor, like very rare breed.
Yeah, she was actually so for those that are listening, the girl that won the Arnold overall and bikini for the amateur portion this year, she was the girl that won the LA Fit Expo bikini overall. And yeah, I mean, congrats to her. She looked amazing. I think I heard that this was her second ever show. And hey, like sometimes you have people like that. They just come out, they win their first show, they go into their second show, they win their pro card. It's rare. But yeah, she just had that it factor, and she very much so reminded me, especially from the back, of Lauralee a little bit. But yeah, taller competitor too.
I think
Yep, she's definitely
taller,
in tall class.
yeah, taller works well when you've got the muscle. I mean, because
Hmm.
you know the theme is still an hourglass. I think some people think because there is this new division, bikini is going to get bigger and harder, and I think this weekend was an indicator that that is not true. Because if you watch the overall from the amateur show, there was a girl that was more muscular and harder than the others, who got moved out of the pro card position, and they moved the girl in from the A class who was quite a bit softer but had really bubbly. Um, so yeah, so one of the questions I got was, why didn't Kalia get her pro card? Well, to get your pro card, you got to get top two in the overall. Kalia got second in her class. Now, I was able to track down the judges after the show. They left initially because it ended at 6 p.m. because of the men. So I didn't get to speak to them immediately, but I did catch up with Bill and Becky, who were the head judges. They both said it was not a unanimous decision, that it was a split decision between Kalia and Saki, the young lady from Japan. They went with the hourglass over Kalia being just a touch too hard. They thought she was just a touch too hard, and a couple body parts. They said they wanted to see her a little bit smoother, a little bit fuller, which we fed her pretty good. But I could see that. I said, you know, that's got to be the only feedback.
Yeah.
But Becky, Becky told me when she walked out for her individual routine, they all looked around and said that could be our overall, right? So she was definitely someone that they were looking at. Um, they all told me don't change anything, just fill her out a little bit more and take her to nationals. Unfortunately, that's like 13 weeks away. So
Yeah.
we'll decide. I told Kalia I think we should do a show in between because it's just a long time to do nothing. So we'll see what she wants to do. But I could not have been happier. Like I feel like she nailed it. Like that was a spectacular look. Um,
Yeah, she
I,
looked
yeah,
The
incredible.
only thing I even said, I think I told you, Paul, was like the only feedback I could possibly imagine him saying is maybe she was too hard.
yeah,
That's the only thing I could possibly think of.
yeah. And in lineups like this, conditioning like hers will stand
Sticks
out a
out.
little bit on the extreme
Yep.
side because the girl in her class was really, I don't want to say soft, but she was much smoother. She was still a very good competitor. Like that was the girl that won her class last year too. So she improved quite a bit. Um, really bubbly, really nice shape. But I thought Kalia's polish, balance should have got her the win. But again, this is as a coach, you don't get to say what happens. You put your
Mhm.
athletes in position. Um, and Kalia is a pro. She just doesn't have her pro card yet, but
Yep.
she's doing all the things that pros do.
She
Absolutely.
is.
She looked incredible. She definitely implemented on her feedback from last year. I know the glutes was like her main feedback from last year. And I mean, she should feel really proud in the sense of, I know the end result of this show wasn't probably what she wanted, but like her improvements were vastly like different. And she looked incredible.
Yeah. Yep. So the amateur show went very well. They did last. So what's cool is last year they had it Friday, so it
Hmm.
made it more part of the event. This year it was Thursday, which meant I had to get there Wednesday, so you guys didn't come. So it just felt like its own event
Mhm.
Thursday, and then they added the men. So last year prejudging and finals were done by 11 a.m. for women. This year they didn't even go on till 11, and then we didn't get done to the finals till 6.
Yeah.
So I was there from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. It was a long day. Um, but the men were insane. Like as small as the women's show was, which it was small. I mean, the bikini, there was 4 classes. There was no class that had more than 6 or 7, maybe, no, there might have been one class with 12. I think C or D had 12.
I thought it was class. Are we talking bikini?
Yeah.
I think class B was the
B.
biggest class. I think I
He had
remember
12.
hearing
And
that.
that was Kalia and Sok's class. So they
Yeah.
had 12. So I mean, there was maybe 40 girls in bikini, right? Total. But the men, wow, they were spectacular. Like all the classes. Bodybuilding. Um, it's Eric Janicki, is that his name? Evan, you know those guys pretty well,
I
right?
don't remember the guy that won that one now.
Well, the guy that won was named, I think, Robert Williams, who was basically Ronnie Coleman Jr. But he beat a very popular YouTuber named Eric Janicki, who looked incredible in the super heavies, and then won the overall.
Mm.
The guy that won the overall was flawless. Go look at his pictures, dude.
Yeah.
Incredible. And then classic physique was Sam Sulek, which
Mm.
I think a lot of people were knocking him after his LA show. And I think, you know, I think for people that, you guys know this, if you see social media pictures and then pictures of somebody on stage, people are like, oh, what happened? Lighting is what happened.
Yep. Yep.
But lighting, he did drop a lot of weight though to
Maybe he
fit the classic weight cap.
depleted the water or whatever. I mean, he looked super impressive in person. Like
Awesome.
legs were very full, lower back was tight. Um, so it was cool to see, you know, a kid who's got this huge social media following who
Mhm.
doesn't even need to do bodybuilding. He doesn't have to ever do that. He's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just making YouTube videos. So he's putting it out there, and I thought he was second in his class, but he won his class, and then in the overall, I thought he was the best in the overall as far as balance goes. So it was cool to see him win.
That's what I saw. And, you know, I commented on one of Gilco's videos. I said, you know, whatever happens, like mad respect to him. I was like, he had everything to lose and nothing to gain by putting himself in this position. And it was kind of shocking how many people wanted to argue with that statement, saying, like, what do you mean he has nothing to lose or everything to lose and nothing to gain? Like, well, the only thing he's going to get is negative feedback. That's it. Doesn't matter if he wins, doesn't matter if he's anything. When you put yourself out there, you open yourself up for criticism and you open yourself up for coming off, honestly, is like, not that because he's very transparent, but as like a fitness kind of fraud, right? And there's a lot of these people who are big social media try to convert to stage, and it does not go well for the vast majority of them, the vast majority. And you know, it impacts you. It has to impact you in a negative way because it makes people think, oh, does this person actually know what they're talking about? Is this person actually doing what they say they're doing? Right?
Well,
And when they go against actual bodybuilders, how's it going to go?
we've seen a lot of big personalities like Mike Israetel get on a bodybuilding stage, and you know, it didn't go well for him.
Nope.
At least in my memory, it was not a good final product for him. But what people have to remember is that doesn't always, like, the people with the best physiques doesn't mean they have the most knowledge.
No.
So that's not always a correlation. The thing about Sam is, you know, I think because we're all, even for Lexi, we're all older than him. Like, he's a baby.
Mhm.
And so I think it's cool that he has that much focus at that age. Because Lexi did a show when she was young, but I sure as hell couldn't have done a show in my 20s. Like,
No.
I was not interested in the dedication that bodybuilding takes. So to be that focused at that age, it's pretty cool to see it come together. You know, and the thing is, I've been going to the Arnold. This was my 17th year. I've got to witness some pretty cool crap. I got to witness Ray Williams squatting 1,000 pounds in person. I got to witness, you know, Hap Thor deadlifting 1,000 pounds. I got to see Dexter Jackson's last ever show. You know, I got to see some cool stuff. I got to see Kai Green beat Phil Heath in person. That was one of the first years I went back when they were competing. So you get to witness these cool moments. Got to see Angelica Teixeira take off her heels on stage. That was a cool moment. And
That was really neat.
I'll always remember, you know, being there when Sam won his pro card. It's, you know,
Mhm.
so get off and I will say this, that arena was packed, guys.
I bet it was.
And I was like, what is going on? And then it dawned on me, oh, they're here for Sam. Because when that overall ended, see ya, they all left. So he brought and put butts in seats, which is awesome for the promoter.
It is. It is.
Absolutely.
It is. And it's good to know too that you were there in person. And, you know, I didn't know if he was going to win his class off that initially with it. I think it was probably pretty close. But when the overall, I thought he definitely had that. But you were there in person. So I never like to judge any of that stuff, you know, unless I'm sitting right where the judges are sitting.
So in his class, they didn't initially move him to the middle. They kind of kept him on the 3-4. But as they were turning, I kept noticing like, okay, he's the only one that actually has a balanced upper and lower because he's got a
Mhm.
really well developed lower body. The other guy had better detail and like sharpness in his back and maybe a little crisper abs. But when they were kept doing the turns, I just kept going, man, like, and then they moved him to the center. And I still thought, okay, it's probably the other guy because they just moved him in at the end and did another round. But no, you know, I'll say this. I was more impressed with him than I was expecting to be. His structure, although not alien-like, is good. Like he does have the waist and the width to be successful. And he also has like the muscle insertions, like the quads are sweepy, you know, the lats pop out. The only thing that he's really like glaring weakness is his chest is so shallow, but his delts are so big. And I think that's probably an error in training because I think back to how I used to lift when I was young, and it was a lot of anterior delt, and then you learn to
If you ever
engage the
seen him, if
chest. And
you've ever
I
seen
could
him
be
train,
wrong. I don't
Paul,
watch his videos, but
yeah, if you've ever seen him, yeah, you would answer that question for yourself right there. I wouldn't say he trains with a very strict form. He trains with a lot of intensity.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so, but the cool thing is like he's 20. Like
Hmm.
it ain't gonna,
He's
you know, it's
23,
the
right?
same thing with like Andrew Jack. Like that guy did his first show, won the Arnold, you know, same thing, and then won his first pro show. And then people got a hold of him and started saying, hey, you got to start. And now he's starting to like move his way up. I think he got third at the Arnold this year, Andrew Jack.
Yeah.
So he's going to be in that conversation. You know, he shows up and brings his A game. He's going to, you know, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure, I'm sure
Yeah.
someone's going to get a hold of Sam now, and you know, the IFBB is going to be like, hey, go speak to this person, and you know,
Well, I think the first thing with him is going to be immediately move up to open bodybuilding because he's right at the weight cap, which means when he turns pro, or he has 10 more pounds to gain. And I think
yeah.
just based off his structure, he doesn't have the structure to be a high level classic guy. Open, sure, he's super young. Like take the time and grow into open, and he could do very,
Well, I
very,
mean, but you
very
just said he
well.
can gain 10 pounds of stage weight and still fit classic. I think he'll do that at least a couple times.
We'll see.
Um, because yeah, so well, we can talk about classic physique because there's obviously a new sheriff in town.
Yeah,
Mike Sommerfeld won the classic title, and I don't think it was rather close. I think Logan looked amazing, but the structural issue with Logan is the waist compared to Mike.
yeah.
So I don't know how he's going to overcome that without adding on too much muscle that he can stay in classic. We'll see. Again, I don't know these guys that well, but I think a lot of people were surprised that Wesley Vissers was so far down.
I wasn't. I was really surprised on how well Wesley placed last year. His quads have always been kind of a thing that held him back, and they haven't improved. They just haven't. Everything else looks very similar. His conditioning's there, but his quad development just isn't there. Not
Yeah.
to match his upper body, and he's tall, right? So when you're tall and you have all that stuff in, it gets difficult. I think Mike, he's short, he's compact, but he looks crazy. He looks like a little alien, right? Like it's wild how he looks up there structurally. His balance is crazy. Everything's awesome. I think Logan looked lights out, by far the best I've ever seen him. Like
Yeah, Mike
by
reminds
far.
me a little bit of like Flex Lewis with the crazy quads and
Yeah.
the like the body parts are all just so bubbly, and then the structure to match, and then he brings his conditioning. It's like there's not,
I
sometimes
mean,
bodybuilding is about flaws,
yeah,
and he just
it
doesn't have
is.
any.
And I think Logan, if he brings that package to Olympia, I see him like a top five placing in Olympia looking like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
he looked really good.
we've got Terrence coming back this year
Yep.
and Ramon Dino. Those guys are going to be pushing, you know, they know the target now. They
Hmm.
know. So it's going to be make for a very interesting Olympia because a lot of the titles are switching hands, you know, obviously before we go into the bikini, which we'll go into real depth on. Um, we can go into the men's physique and the open bodybuilding. The men's physique was as expected,
Yeah.
but I don't think people were expecting Aaron Banks to improve that much.
I think he looked the best he's ever looked.
When he came out, I said, "Oh, it's his show." But what's the guy's name that won?
Ali?
Ali. His back is incredible, dude. Like his lats insert at his shorts. Like his back is so full. Um, and Aaron's back was so much better, but he has those higher lat insertions, so there's that space between
Hmm.
his shorts and his lats. So but I'll tell you what, when he opens up, he is so wide. He takes up the space of two men on stage.
Yeah.
So if he gets like feedback that he, because he could have been a little sharper.
Yeah.
If he comes in crazy sharp, like Ryan Terry sharp, I don't know that he's going to lose the Olympia. I feel like he's got his momentum back, but it's going to be very Ali Bilal, right? That's his name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
be very, at least it makes it interesting.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see with Aaron just how he ends up coming in. You know, when he comes in a little bit flat, he doesn't look nearly as impressive, especially in the back. That's where he loses a lot, and that's what kind of makes him stand out is that like 3D thickness, right? You've never seen Aaron in person. He's not like a really dense guy. Like he's not super thick front to back on that. He doesn't have like a ton of density to him compared to a lot of the other guys. But he's also on the taller side.
Well, yeah,
I
and you
think.
can't weigh a lot. But yeah, so I've seen him like I've stood next to him in a t-shirt, and you wouldn't think he's a bodybuilder just standing next to him. He's a big guy, but you wouldn't be like, oh, he's not like Andrew. You stand next to Andrew Jacked, you're like, what is this
Yeah,
human
it's like an
being?
alien.
How are we on the same planet, right? Whereas Aaron, I've stood next to him, and he looks like I do. He looks fit in a shirt. Obviously, as soon as he does this, everything pops out, and you're like, okay. So yeah, but Ali, it was just again, there's no flaw.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
I'm so like quiet during this conversation because I'm so like honestly, I'm so oblivious to the male the divisions. I mean, I don't watch them as closely, so I feel like I shouldn't chime in
Did
because
you even stay to watch Men's Physique after Bikini?
after Bikini, no, you know what? No, I did not. I got up because I
Went back to
did.
the booth. Okay.
Yeah, I went back to the booth. I had the Angel Fashion Show was directly after that, so I went to kind of like help out, make sure everything was good there backstage. So I did, yeah, I didn't watch, and I probably should like expand my horizons, but I feel like I'm so laser focused on Bikini and a little bit of wellness in figure that I don't like really pay attention to like what the men like. I mean, I know.
I definitely want to talk about a few things,
Open.
including the fact that they had Sid Gillen announcing the Arnold when they removed figure. Like I was like,
Oh
what's the point of
yeah,
this?
but
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't catch that, but you're right.
But you know
I
what?
mean,
I
she
have
did.
to say, she is fantastic as a commentator
Of
because
course.
when I was at the women's conference, she was the one that like I think Sandy allocated her to like she basically talked the first like 2 hours of the whole conference. And everybody loved her. And I'm sure that there was feedback. Like she's funny too. And I think it's very captivating to like listen to her. But yeah, that is a funny thing that you point out that they don't have figure, but she was the commentator. But I'm sure she'll be doing more of like that type of stuff now that she's officially retired. I'm sure she'll just be doing more of like the
Listen,
commentator stuff.
she
And
didn't ever post. Now she's posting exercises, she's showing form, she's
the
now
podcast.
she's posing with just a sports bra on her stories. Like the fact that she's retired, I feel like it's like freed her up to be more open. And yeah,
Yeah.
she's been fantastic. I even DM'd her one day because I mean I've been friendly with her for years now, but I DM'd her one day and I said, "Man, it's just so awesome that you're posting all this stuff now that you never would before." And she's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I always wanted to. I just, she liked to keep it quiet. She wouldn't even
Yeah.
post her physique till after the Olympia."
I know. I think she has a podcast now too. It's very new, but yeah, she's awesome. I love her.
And I think they have a show coming up, the Triple O Dynasty, her, Whitney, and
Yes, her show is the Sid Gill and Peach Classic, and that's at
okay.
the end of, I believe, May. So I have a couple clients doing it. That's her show. And then Whitney's show is like the Triple O. I think Sid is a part of that too. I think that's before Sid's show in Atlanta,
Okay.
Sid Gill and Classic. So
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, Sid's amazing. And I love that they have her commenting. I think
yeah.
first time I met her was 2017. She interviewed Lauren Dannemiller. And I think she had either just won the figure. I knew who she was, and I was like, thank you. She was just super sweet. And she's a great interviewer because sometimes those post-up interviews are actually just atrocious, and she's very good.
Yeah.
But we can get into a little bit of I still have a problem with the finals commentary is just so bad for Bikini. It's just so bad. They just need to
Yeah.
they need to have Janet back or somebody back because there shouldn't be an active discussion going on what's the criteria in the live stream.
No.
Yeah, I heard a lot of banter about that. People were like, that was just not great.
It's never good.
No.
There's so many intelligent people you could have on that panel to speak about it, and they never bring anyone in.
Yeah, and unfortunately, listen, I love Arnold, but him coming on to the booth right when Bikini was starting, a lot of stuff got missed. Like the fact that Angelica was retiring until she took her shoes off. But let's go into Bikini. Let's just dig in. And if we have time, we can discuss the open bodybuilding as too, because that was exciting. But the fun thing, so Lexi and I were able to get really good seats right in the center. We just went over there during the wheelchair bodybuilding and then got the seats. And then by the time everyone's trying to fill in, we're already there. So note to self, get there early.
It was a packed house, like, but that happens every year. It's always like not just the seats, but like that whole like little area around the seat
Yeah.
is crazy. Like you cannot move through that area because I had a hard time even getting in to get my seat that you had saved for me. It was tough.
The awesome thing about the Arnold is there was 10 competitors, like 2 groups of 5, 10 routines, call outs. I think they did 4 call outs, and they were done within like 20 minutes, like 25 minutes. So it's so compact. Um, like, yeah, it's almost a format that they should have at the Olympia, because at the Olympia, by the time 55 people go, it's a little, you lose the momentum.
You absolutely lose it. It's too many people.
Yeah, it was literally done in 30 minutes because I didn't time it, but like I remember looking down at the end because I knew men's physique was supposed to start at noon and Bikini was over by 11:30. It was 30 minutes. It was quick.
And they started men's physique at 11:30, because remember you were like, oh, they're going to start it at noon, and I was about to leave, and they pulled them out on stage, so they went right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But I will say, I vividly remember thinking, I can't remember if I told you this, Paul, when we were sitting there, but I mean, out of all 10 of those Bikini girls that came out, like it was, I mean, they were all like in their own unique way, very much so on. Like I feel like for a lot of them, I mean, it was just so, it's just so crazy to see that level and that caliber in person. Like we say this all the time, but it truly is so different when you're there in person. I mean, I think the live stream was great for the Arnold, I do. And better yet, it was free, which is awesome. But being there in person, I mean, they were just all like, it was insane how incredible all of them looked. And and before we get into things too, I know that there's been a lot of talk. People are like, oh my god, there's even with Vanya, I know I've heard some people say, oh my gosh, like that is just so much muscle. But I even remember telling you, Paul, I was like, oh my god, she's so small when she came out, not in a bad way, but like
she's a tiny human.
she is very tiny. And I always say that like stage pictures and even like the Gilco videos, like they're phenomenal quality, but they do add a little bit of weight like to the frame. So these girls, like if you see them in person, and even if you get a chance to like say hi to them in person and you're standing next to them, you realize they're really not as big as these stage shots and these stage videos make them appear.
You can't tell scale unless you're in person. You can't tell scale.
Yeah.
You can't.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone came out and was like, wow, everyone looks spectacular. So you immediately go, okay, what are the judges going to do? There were a couple that stood out, I thought, in a bad way, and then a couple that stood out in a great way. And I mean, there's only 10. I guess we can kind of go person by person.
Yeah.
The first thing I noticed was most shows, they do alphabetical. This show, they did not. They just kind of had a random assortment of the order of the competitors, and I don't know how they decided that. And maybe if I looked closer, I could figure out a pattern there. But it wasn't the ABC. It was, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the order was there.
Yeah, that was weird. I remember you said that because I think Tamikia Carter was the first person that came out, and alphabetically, she's not.
No, Vanya's always first.
And then we had Maria Acosta and
Costa, and then
then
Brothers.
Ariana Brothers. So yeah,
They're always up there. Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Well, why they chose that order, but whatever.
And even Jordan's always right next to Ari.
Right.
So yeah, it was like they were spacing everybody out. Now they usually let the champ go last, but the champ wasn't here. So
true.
I just found it odd. And I remember first thing I remember thinking with Tamikia, when she came out, she stopped at the back middle, and I thought, Laura Lee, did you think that?
I personally did not. I did see there was another girl on stage who was posing, and it kind of to me looked like she was almost trying to, I don't know if this is what she was trying to do, but it kind of reminded me of like what Lauralee does with like the arm kind of flowing to the side. I did see a little bit of
Sure.
on stage, but
I
no,
just thought, I just remember Laura Lee coming out because the way the stage is set up, you come out from the middle.
yeah,
And I remember Tamikia stopped right at the entrance, stood there, did her front pose, and and I thought, oh, okay, she's taking a step because Laura Lee did that last year and just held that pose for like a few seconds before she walked forward. Um, Tamikia is somebody that can change from show to show. Incredible structure, incredible muscularity, incredible stage presence, just a fantastic competitor. And I've seen her get knocked for it, and I've seen her win in person. She won Nashville when I was there last year. And the year before at Tampa, she got like 10th when Ari got second when I was coaching Ari. And I thought, wow, she looks amazing. And she didn't even get in that group of 6. So, at that show, they said just a touch too hard. So I think at this show from the front, I loved her look. From the back, I thought she was just a little off, not as tight as she's been. But with her, I'm sure she's trying to walk that line.
absolutely. I would agree with all of that.
Yeah, and
Yep.
she didn't get into that initial. They brought 6 out in that first call out, but I just remembered when she walked out um, how much she held that front pose. Um,
Her waist just looked super tiny. Everything was really balanced.
I
She
mean,
wasn't overly muscular. Like it all just really fit the standard.
yeah. Second out was Maria Acosta, who trying to think. I saw her at Miami last year, and and at Girl Power. I think she won both of those. Miami, or maybe it was another
Not girl power.
the
She won
Clash. One of
Miami.
the Clash.
For the
Yeah,
Clash.
Miami was her
Yeah.
first pro win, I believe.
Yeah, and then the week later, I think she did the Clash Southern USA or whatever the one in Orlando was. And I at the Olympia, I thought she should have been in the top 5. I had her in the top 5. She looked good here. She did not look like that Maria. I didn't think she was quite as tight from the back. I could be wrong.
That's what I was gonna say. I thought like her front pose was like lights out, phenomenal, amazing balance, incredible structure. I mean, and it's so silly to sit here and like critique these little things because all of these girls looked so phenomenal. Like we're critiquing these tiny little minuscule things, but I would say that it did look like maybe she could have been a touch tighter in that back pose.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's tightness or fullness, right? So it's when you're that lean, it can be just filling out more, and it can be just being a little bit leaner. I mean, I've got her picture up here. I see her hamstrings are in and her glutes are in, so I think maybe she just wasn't full enough. I don't know, but the thing about, so we're giving critiques on pro bikini guys. This is what the judges have to do. They have to pick apart these girls. And Lexi, Evan, we talk about this all the time, the naked eye test.
Yep.
And Maria looked really good, but when she walked out and she was in the groups, I didn't say, wow. And you kind of need that.
Yeah.
But she did get in the first call out. She did finish 4th. I mean, she was right there. So like, she's one of these girls now that like on any day is going to be fighting for the win and potentially, first call outs at the Olympia, like that's who she is now.
Yeah.
And that's why they do these first initial call outs like that. That's why they do it before individual routines or anything like that. It's to put everyone against each other. Not everyone, but split it down the middle and have a good idea about who's going to be in that first call. And that's where that naked eye test really, really comes in.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
where it comes in. That first initial impression means a lot. Means a lot.
I mean, the worst thing is when you see those girls come out and then they've all been out and you're like, wait, where was so-and-so? And then you realize, oh, okay, they came out, but I just didn't notice them. That's never usually the best thing. It usually means that they're probably not completely on that day.
Yeah, that happened to somebody at this show. Lexi, I don't know if you remember, I said, oh, I didn't even notice her, which is not good.
But I can't remember who it was, but I do remember you said that. Yeah.
I don't want to say. Okay, so the first wow girl was Jordan Brandon, because when she walked out, I was like, whoa, she is much more muscular. She is very hard, and talk about improving your glutes.
Oh my goodness.
You went from somebody that had like, good pro glutes to like wow factor glutes now.
She's definitely made some crazy strides with her glutes because I remember even telling you this, Paul, in the audience. Like, I remember you and I were at think it was Junior USA's in Charleston when she won her pro card. And I remember, I mean, her front post was always really, really great, but her glutes, like comparing her glutes to that pro win and then where they're at now, I mean, she has improved so
Crazy.
much in that avenue.
She was not in consideration for the top 6. So the other wow factor that we noticed was that when she walked, you could see clear quad striations, quite vascular in the upper body, like, you know, just had a very muscular look. So for me personally, I think all she has to do is kind of smudge the edges a little bit and soften a little bit. And hopefully she's able to keep the lower body as tight, because sometimes the difficulty is dieting down hard enough to get the glutes in, but then other things get harder too. And, you know, so you can't soften up the glutes without softening up the core, the legs, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That's the tough part is I know everyone wants to continue trying upper body because they say more shoulders, more shoulders, more shoulders, more shoulders, more shoulders. But once you build up a lot of muscle density there and you get lean, it's hard to not look hard and dry. It is. It
Yeah.
is. So that's where the training balance really comes in, right? And knowing how far to push things and knowing when to pull back and when you actually need to atrophy a little bit on there. Because if you got a ton of muscle on you, there's only so much smoothing you could do before everything else is going to smooth out.
Yep. Yep. The fourth one to come out was Vania, who obviously from the get-go was like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, might have one of the best combination of structure muscle insertions in the whole IFBB. There's just, she is the definition of bikini. Last year she won the Arnold UK.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember what she got at the Olympia.
Ooh,
I don't remember.
a great question.
Is it 5th? I think she got 5th at the Olympia. Might have been 4th. She was up there. No, Jazzy was 3rd. Amy was 6th. I think she was 4th.
Yep, I just looked. She was 4th. Wait,
Yeah.
yes, 4th.
So,
no, 5th.
5th. Okay. Who was
Jazzy
4th?
3rd. Amy was 4th.
Oh, Amy was 4th. Why did I say
and
6th? That's my
Vania
mistake.
was
That's my mistake. I said that earlier too. So, I mean, we knew right away, okay, she's going to be fighting for it. Like, you know, and going into this show, I don't know, I think we all kind of agreed if Amy brought her normal best Amy, that she was going to win. But we'll get into that first call out. But when we saw Vania, I think what shocked me was how big and full Vania's glutes and shoulders were next to them.
Yes. Yeah. And that's actually what I was very curious to see in this lineup, because I feel like compared to a lot of the other top level pros, Vanya's glutes just have always needed a little bit more of that like pop and projection and fullness. And I did listen to an interview with her like right before this Arnold, and I think that's specifically what she said. They had been training really hard to bring more of that glute fullness. But I mean, clearly what she did worked, because I mean, she is our new Arnold champ. So yeah, best Vania I've ever seen. That coupled just with her stage presence. I mean, just the way she flows on stage. I even had a client tell me that today in a posing session. She's like, oh gosh, you know, even though I don't have that trained eye yet, she's like, it was just so apparent that like Vania just flows compared to everybody else. Like, it just makes that posing look effortless.
Does.
100%. Yep. She is a pro. She has been competing on the pro circuit for years. And I remember being at shows when she was not in the top 10, and she just keeps showing up and getting better. And then she started chipping away at that top 5, and then she started getting some top 3s. She won Charlotte last year, you know, like she won Nashville. Like, she's just got some wins in her career, and then she's kind of moved her way up, and now now you got to put her on the short list for Miss Bikini Olympia this year. It's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like another good example of that too is like Maria Acosta. I mean, she for a while, I feel like she was, you know, always kind of in the mix at the pro shows, never quite like got up into that first, second place. And then finally she won her first pro show. And ever since then, she's just been consecutively up there. So I think some people forget, like, for a lot of these girls, those first place, second place, you know, places, they don't come like instantaneously. A lot of these girls have been competing for a very long time. They just haven't given up.
The next girl to come out was Anastasia, the girl that won the overall at the amateur show the year before. So if you're not familiar, they do invite the overall winners from all the divisions to compete the following year at the pro show, which is very prestigious because there's only 12 invites this year for each division. So one of those goes to the amateur champion. So It'll be interesting to see if Sam does it next year.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Oh yeah. Why not?
So when she came out, Anastasia, I thought, wow, she's on. Core looked tight, shoulders and legs and quads and glutes were full, but she does not have the glutes yet. Like she is, and like I said about the bodybuilders, sometimes it's what's missing.
Yep.
And she just
Right.
doesn't match. I mean, obviously she's incredible, but she doesn't match what was on that stage because you're talking about, the top 15 in the world.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
kind of thrown to the wolves there, right? And it's
Yeah.
it's not just bikini, that's every division. It's pretty easy to tell who the amateur winner was from the year before. And that's not any discount to them. It's because they're getting thrown in with literally like the best in the world. Like
Right.
a
Well,
short list of the
the
best.
amateur winner last year actually finished 6th or 7th. She finished really high, and she's actually placed a top 5 at a lot of pro shows.
That's
Um,
right. I
No, I
so
thought
mean it happens, but it's more of a rarity than anything.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, especially now, I think we can all agree gone are the days of the pro to the Olympia like road. Like it's
yeah.
there is a gap between the NPC and the IFBB now. For a while, I did not think that was the case. It was a lot of structure and genetic things. Now, with the enhancements, the drugs, the girls are more muscular. It's
Yeah.
undeniable now.
Yeah. I will say, Stassi, I'm very happy. I liked her suit a lot. I like that she wore like that light blue. It popped a lot more on her compared to like her old suit color. Her stage presence I thought was amazing, but agreed, Paul. I think her glutes just, I mean, she looked so great. But just with that lineup, her glutes didn't quite have that like that pop when you put everybody side by side.
The next girl's glutes did have that pop. That was Ashlyn Little.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, yes.
I
Yes.
mean, spectacular. There's nothing else to say. He looked
Absolutely.
amazing.
Mhm.
Improvement over the Olympia. One of her better looks ever. Waist was incredible. Glutes were full. Yeah, not really much to say. Just she's been very consistent since she's been with Cash. Very consistent.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so when she came out, we knew that's a first call out. And sometimes you're just like, okay, who's going to be in that first group? And then we're going to have to see what the judges do. Um, but there was no doubt in my mind what was going to happen. The next one was Ari, which, as a coach, when I coached her, I said from the beginning, she can be Miss Bikini Olympia. And it's very sad when she decided to go elsewhere, but I'm always going to be a fan of hers.
Yeah.
Structurally, muscularity wise, beauty wise, there might not be a better physique. Just it's all there. And the one thing I do remember coaching her was it was a challenge to get her conditioned, right? Like some people can lose the weight, and typically competitors, men or women, that have an easier time putting on muscle have a harder
Yep.
time losing body fat. And I think
Yep.
that's her cross to bear, is like she just hasn't come in tight enough yet, like drawn in enough. The best I ever saw her when I was coaching her was the Olympia, and then the show a couple weeks later, where we won
Atlantic?
against Jazzy and Yulia at the Atlantic coast. So we've got 7th at her debut at the Olympia. And that was after getting 2nd at the Hurricane a couple weeks before the Olympia and getting feedback they wanted us leaner. So we just went into the death spiral, double cardio, low calories, and we brought her in super sharp. This last Olympia, obviously she was, I'm assuming she was disappointed. She dropped from 7th to I think 13th. This show, anytime she's in a lineup, I think she could win the show if she brings it. She had a lot of muscle, but I didn't see the tightness in the core, the separation in the lower body. I mean, what did you guys see? Because the other thing is you have to recognize, as a coach,
Right.
I have such a close relationship with her and know her so well. I try to take that out of the equation, but it's probably impossible.
Yeah. I mean, I
She
thought,
was too soft. I mean, I could see it from the live stream. She was too soft. Compared to everyone else, she was too soft.
yeah, just a little too soft, smooth in the specifically, I would say the glutes and even the upper body. But
Yeah.
structurally, she's got it. She even rocked a new suit color this time around and was not my guess actually. The day before she told me she was gonna wear a new suit color, and I was like, I'm gonna guess it's blue or purple or blue purple, and it was not that. So her and Amy rocked the kind of the same color this time.
Mhm. Oh, they all look great.
Which is funny because Amy's known for the black hair, red suit. And so for her to, well, you know, Evan, you know, you have a history of pink suits. I believe Aaron Stern tried to wear pink, correct?
She did. Yep.
And it softened her. And I think pink is one of those colors that softens the physique.
Agreed. 100%.
I think it's all cool. I think all these suit colors are cool, but here's the deal. I don't know why you're going to put anything risky at that show. It doesn't make any sense to do that. Like if your physique is already there and you're doing everything, why do that? I mean, I don't understand the purpose of it. I do what's going to help you win. And I agree. Like, have you seen anybody really win a big show with that color? No, I think it looked great.
Maybe,
Maureen,
but I think,
Maureen wore that
yeah,
color.
Maureen, but I think you
Yeah.
got to be almost overly conditioned because it does just give you a softer look. So to be not as lean, you know, she's been leaner before, you know, so I don't know. That's a decision that, you know, I remember when Daraja begged me to wear pink, she loved it. And I'll be honest, I thought it looked great in the room. When I was watching her pose in the gym and in her room for the weeks leading up to the Tampa show, I thought, man, this looks nice. She came out under those lights and it just made her look soft. And literally the judges were like, go back. The next week, we put the turquoise on and she wins in Texas. So like some skin tones and body types, I don't know if that's the case with Ari. Maybe, you know, maybe they've tried it all out, but she's just so striking with the dark hair and the bright fire engine red. I think that's, you know, if it works, it
I
works.
just don't think she was quite tight enough. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know
think
that
she
that's
was.
gonna. I don't think her putting on a red suit puts her in third
No.
or second.
Right.
You know, but yeah.
And
so
because I know what she looks like. We all know what she looks like, right? When
Yeah.
she's lean and she's conditioned, she's there, and it just wasn't that.
Yeah,
It's just wasn't. It wasn't. If it was, then she would have been in the mix fighting it out for win.
Oh yeah. I mean, when they're standing there, if you squint your eyes, I mean, she's, you know, she has all the.
Yeah,
Of course
and
she
I
does.
will
She's
say,
phenomenal. She's great.
I will say I'm happy. Even though she maybe wasn't as conditioned as we know she can be, I am happy that they rewarded that over the opposite of being too like lean. We did see a couple competitors on stage like that, and I think we can get into it in a sec. But like, I'm happy with what the judges rewarded because it really kind of sends a message
Yes.
as to what they want to see. Whereas if they would have rewarded one of those like overly lean and conditioned looks, it kind of sends a message of like, all right, this is what we're looking for. So I am happy that they rewarded her at that 5th place.
You bring up a good
Well-
point too, Lexi, with that. And everyone thinks, here's the case, is sometimes it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to be able to win. If you're up against a better competitor that is pretty on, you're probably not going to win. And a lot of people really push the conditioning to try to make up for that. And I understand that. I do. But sometimes it ends up kind of backfiring on you with that.
Yeah, and I think that's what happened with our next competitor, Miss Jasmine, who was third at the Olympia, and when she initially walked out, looked incredible, like very tight, very full. But I think the longer she was out on the stage, she was getting like harder, like vascular in her shoulders, striations in her like abs, you know. And so my eye kept going to her. And I think there were times in this sport where she might have won. Like a couple of years ago, they were letting girls be a little bit harder, but they sent a pretty clear message. You were third at the Olympia. You were off. You were not third at the Arnold. She was sixth. So Ari actually beat her, right? So the two extremes, like you were just mentioning. But yeah, I mean, structurally incredible, posing incredible. She was Daraja's first posing coach. That's how I met her. Muscles incredible. So I'm sure she's going to make some corrections.
I feel like she will too. And I can't remember, Paul, because I was standing there when Cash came over to the Angel booth and you and I were there. I think he had said that they tried their best, but they knew that she was maybe a little too full or lean when she
He
walked
said
out.
he was trying to fill her out for multiple days and she just kept getting tighter and harder. So yeah, I mean, the one thing I do love about Cash is he feeds his athletes. They are eating into the shows. They are doing, you know, so, you know, he and I have had a lot of talks. We agree on a lot of things from, you know, even talking about drug protocols with him, you know, like peaking protocols, like we've got a lot in common. I really like Cash. He's really straightforward with his athletes, and so I always enjoy talking to him. So, he was really focused. When you have two athletes that like that at the same show, that's hard. I've done that before. So for him to bring them both in so good, Jazzy was right there. Like these girls were all so good. She was just a little too hard. And if you're going to err on one side or the other, you probably err on being a little too conditioned and
Yeah.
softening up. If you're a little too soft, there's nothing you can do.
Right.
So,
Because most of the time when you get on stage, I mean, it doesn't happen often to where girls are posed and they get harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. That doesn't normally happen because there's not a ton of posing
right.
that goes on.
I did get a question on my Instagram I did want to ask because it was about Ari. Do you think Ari's glutes were too full? Is that even possible for bikini? To me, they looked unproportional. So something I noticed about her from the day I started coaching her, her left glute is a little fuller and tighter than her right glute. But I did notice when we got her really lean, the leanest I ever got her, it evened out a little bit. And something I noticed with all athletes, there is sometimes asymmetrical conditioning.
Mhm.
One body part will lean out before the other body part. I don't think that there's an asymmetrical muscle with her, and I don't think they were too full. I just think she
I don't
wasn't
think
lean
so
enough.
either.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think that went through my mind once being there in person, thinking they were too full or too dominant. No, I don't think so.
no, I think now she's somebody, if she could get conditioned, she could be overly muscular if she got super lean.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen that from her yet. And, that was like, as a coach, that was my goal, was to get her to the point where I could get her conditioning to match her muscularity. And then she's going to walk out and be Miss Bikini Olympia. That was always my vision for her. And I'm sure that's still her plan. The next one to walk out after Ari, Amy.
Yes. Another.
Initial thoughts on the live stream, Evan?
I thought she looked great. I thought she looked like Amy, right? And
Yeah.
Amy's one of those that it's difficult to tell on a live stream with it because she's always within like this much of where she normally sits.
Right.
Like she's always good. She's always good. I thought she looked great. I thought her presentation was great. I thought she was probably going to win. Like I said, when Vani walked out, she was the first one that I was like, oh, geez, just jumped off the page to me, though. Like, just 100% jumped off the page. Then I saw Amy, I was like, wow, Amy looks really good, too. But it wasn't that same reaction that I had when I saw Vani on just the first initial look. No, I thought she looked great. I thought she looked awesome.
Yeah, agreed. I think
And
you.
normally, when you're the best package you've been, you would expect someone that places as high as she places to just, get the win.
Yeah, I thought this was personally. I mean, I've seen her in person a lot now at shows. I thought this was the best I had seen her. I mean, it was definitely an improvement from the Olympia. So I mean, I think I told you, Paul, at the show, I thought this was her best. But I mean, again, I'm very happy that Vanya won. I could have seen it going either way, honestly. That's why I'm very curious to hear the feedback in terms of like when Tyler does the recap. Just because I think either of them could have won. It's obviously just the judges kind of set the message of what they want to see in terms of bikini moving forward.
Well, have you seen the scoring on there?
Oh, no, but I do.
Yeah.
It's up,
I mean,
right?
it was a split decision on 1, 2, and 3. 7 for Vanya, 10 for Amy, and 12 for Ashlyn. So Ashlyn was right there knocking on that second place too.
Gosh, I mean, that makes sense that it's so close, especially at that
That
level.
means they all got first place votes.
Yeah. Well,
If Ashlyn got 12 and there's 5 judges, she could have all gotten all 2s and a couple 3s.
She could have, you're right.
Yeah, so I think that means that Amy got 2 first place and Vanya got 3, if I had to guess. Well,
Yeah, that's it's
because a 7 would mean you got 1 second.
true.
And yeah, so I think Vanya got. So if Amy would have got 1 first, that means she got a first, a second, and a third. Ashlyn, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, and my initial thought when Amy walked out was best I've ever seen her. Like I feel like if she'd have brought this look to the Olympia last year, she might have won the damn thing. Like,
yeah.
and even last year at the Arnold, she didn't look this good. This tight in the core and this full in the glutes. And oddly enough, when I see her physique on, it's when that hip dip, that dip between the quad and the glute just under the suit, when that's in on her, it's like the wow factor's there because it draws your eye. But I also noticed when they were doing the comparisons, her glute is so much bigger than her quad and hamstring.
Yeah, that's kind of what stuck out the most to me when you look at pictures. And it's interesting because I do remember, unless I'm making this up in my head, I do feel like it wasn't last season, but the season before. I feel like she got that, like she got feedback that her quad was too thick and too dense.
Mm.
But now I almost feel like it's the opposite where her glute is a little too dominant, her leg looks a little too small. So that's why, like, that's the only thing I can think of in terms of maybe what set Vanya over the edge in terms of just winning.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see Tyler's. I mean, they're both they were so good and so on. So you just assume, okay, Amy's got all this history, all this momentum. She's been second at the Arnold 2 years in a row. I thought it was just going to be her day. I mean, I remember we were watching the live stream when we heard in second Amy, we were all like, "What?"
Yep, that was my case scenario too.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I don't know about you guys. I literally, when I was watching, because I didn't go to the live finals, I got like chills seeing Vanya's reaction to just winning. Like I get chills even just thinking about it. Like the way she just reacted, jumped up and down. Like it was pretty cool to see that.
Next was Angelica,
Yes. Last show
and
ever for her.
last show ever, and I saw her at Atlantic Coast in November. That was
Same.
her last show of last season, where she ended up taking second to I forget her name, but it was like her second pro show or third pro show.
Oh, yes. I forget her name as well. She has blonde hair.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And to me, she was downsized from there. She was not as muscular,
Awesome.
not as hard. And although she looked great, she just didn't fit in with this group as far as muscle fullness and shape and size. Um, Probably it'd be interesting to compare. I bet she was leaner here than she was when she won the Olympia last time. Because back then she had no tie-ins. Those days, those girls, they would have full glutes, but they wouldn't have the tie-ins. She had tie-ins. Um, so that'd be an interesting comparison. Um,
It would be. I feel like the one thing I did, because I was really watching for this, I feel like her posing, like her front pose at least was improved because I know she tends
Mhm.
to sometimes kind of close off in her front pose, like with her shoulders. I remember she did that at Atlantic, and I remember being backstage and like hearing her and her coach talking about that. And I felt like her posing had definitely improved this time around.
She's the reason for so many girls competing in the sport. And so to see her last show, again, these are things that you're not going to think about, but then you're going to realize, like, oh, I was there for her last ever competition. Like the
Yeah.
one thing about going to so many shows, I go to 30, 40 shows a year, you get to catch these like random awesome moments. And I was a little bummed at the commentary. They didn't really pay as much attention to her until she took her shoes off. I've never seen anyone do that before. That was a really cool way to end her career. At the finals, for those that weren't watching, she did her individual routine. And in the middle of the stage, she bent over, took her shoes off, held them up in the air, kissed them, and then like said thank you to the audience. And then she had to put them back on and do comparisons. But
Yeah, that was a cool moment for sure.
also, did you guys notice at finals, they didn't make them wear numbers?
I didn't.
I
They
did
didn't have
notice
their
that.
numbers on. And I'm like, well, they obviously know who they are, but it's just
Right.
funny. Like they weren't wearing numbers.
That is funny.
Which for bikini, it is kind of like off-putting. It covers like this whole section of your
Yeah,
body.
it is.
Um,
Right.
so I mean, that was all 10 of the girls. I guess they let Angelica go last because, well, Teixeira. I guess she might have been alphabetically, but also because, she was a two-time Arnold and two-time Olympia champion. But so let's go quickly through the call outs because I think with only 10 competitors, congratulations, you're top 10 at the Arnold, right? So the top call out is really what separates because that's where they go, okay, these are the girls that have the opportunity to win. And the first call out was Maria, Jasmine, Amy, Ashlyn, Vanya, Ari,
Yes.
those six. They immediately swapped. Ari was in the middle. Amy was on the outside. They put Amy in the center. And they did not initially move Ashlyn out of the center. They kept her there.
Yeah. And I have to just say, I remember the one thing I kept thinking when I like looking at, especially the top 3 and 4, when they transition from that front to the back and vice versa, and like did the walk to the back. I mean, clearly I'm always watching the glutes when they walk to the back, and so are the judges, but like all of their glutes, like dense, like no movement, jiggle, like they were just dense. Like it was incredible.
Yeah, some of these girls are bordering on wellness glutes. Like they are pushing the envelope. Um, so it's gonna be interesting. You got to be careful because once you get labeled as too muscular, it is hard to come back from that.
Already come back.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'll tell you this too. For anyone, if they have top three in call outs and they move everyone around, don't read too much into who starts in the middle and finishes in the middle and all that stuff. None of that really matters. If there's three in the call outs, there's a 95% chance everyone's going to get a run in the middle, especially at a bigger show.
Yeah, so what Evan's referring to is after that first call out where
Oh,
they
sorry, I
kind of
forgot where like the final
they
three are.
separated the top four. They had, Vanya, Maria, Amy, and Ashlyn in that four position. And Amy never moved out of the middle, but I think they swapped Vanya and Ashlyn a couple times or once at least.
Yeah.
Jazzy and Ari stayed on the outside. They never gave them a shot to move in. So what they did was on the final call out, they did three. And in which case there is a true center. However, everybody spent time in the center, ending with Amy at the very last second. However, what I remember saying to you, Lexi, when we were sitting there, is I feel like the more they're comparing these three, the more my eye keeps going to Vanya.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't always mean that's who's going to win, but my eye went to her the most. I kept thinking, like, man, I can't believe that her glutes are actually as big as the other girls because I don't think of her as that muscular. Her shoulders
Yeah.
are as big, and then she's got the best waist. And she's got the best balance. So I'm like, man, she looked spectacular. Like that was just, yeah.
It was definitely her show. Yeah, I'm very, very happy for her. And I think, we can talk to a little bit about like I think it does kind of send a clear message in terms of how they place these athletes as to like what they want to see moving forward. I think we already talked about it a little bit, but clearly like the overly conditioned, like too vascular, like separation in the quads is not what the judges are wanting to see in bikini.
Clearly, because Jordan didn't get in the first call out. And she looked amazing for Jordan. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, like she took it. And even Jazzy, who got third at the Olympia, she was the highest ranked competitor at this show. 1 and 2 from the Olympia were not here. So, and I had predicted she would win because I saw her stories leading up to this, and I'm like, man, she's very lean, and I know, historically she hasn't been as lean. So, and I knew she'd be full, but she was a little over the line, and not much.
Yeah.
But when you're standing next to them at a prejudge, and Amy's done this how many times now? Like these girls are so familiar with their bodies.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like a lot of these girls, any of them could have, if they were in like a different pro show where they were in the mix of a different lineup, I feel like a lot of them could have easily been in that first or second place. But it was just because they were all standing amongst each other,
Oh
the
yeah.
best of the best. Like that's obviously some are going to have to do, better than others. So, but I mean, I don't feel like there was anybody that was severely off. Sometimes, you go to these shows and you can just tell, ooh, so and so is definitely off, but I don't feel like anyone really looked severely off
Oh,
at the show at all.
oh.
Some
I don't know the final placings of who placed where, but whether it was Anastasia or Angelica who finished last, they both looked incredible and
yeah,
like fantastic. Jordan, what is she, seventh or eighth or something? Like she looked fantastic. And I think the other thing is like the bikini criteria, the judges have to decide, okay, do you take someone like Ari, who very clearly has maybe the best proportions, muscle insertions, structure up there, but doesn't quite have the conditioning? Do you place her ahead of somebody that really nailed the conditioning aspect, but doesn't have all those other pieces? The real problem with this lineup is
Yeah.
there are no slackers. There are no people missing body parts. So it makes it, you know, it's probably one of the most enjoyable things to watch because last year I had a competitor on that stage and it's harder for me to watch when I have a competitor. This year I didn't, and I was just such a fan to just see them up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun to watch. And even better yet, like we talked about, it is nice with compared to the Olympia, we've got 10 girls, and it was like it was done in 30 minutes. And I mean, just the caliber of those 10 ladies was phenomenal. And I mean, props to all of them too, because I think we talked about this last week, but I mean, to have that short of like a improvement season, and I say that like with air quotes, between the Olympia and the Arnold, like that's not a lot of time to make improvements. But a lot of these girls made some crazy improvements from the Olympia. So I mean, props to all of them for that, because that's not
Yeah.
easy to do in such a short period of time. And in the midst of that time, we had the holidays, we had Thanksgiving, we had Christmas. So that's hard too within itself.
Well, let's talk about the other elephant in the room. I mean, first of all, congratulations to Vanya, the first woman of color to win the Arnold.
Yeah.
So, she'll be looking to become the first woman of color to win the Olympia now. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Vanya wins. She's Olympia qualified. Jazzy got third at the Olympia. She's Olympia qualified. Nobody else on that stage is Olympia qualified right now. Amy's not qualified.
No, I
Oh,
think
Jordan.
Jordan
Jordan
Brennan.
won a show at the end of the year. So you've got Amy's now got to go do another show and get qualified. Not going to be a problem for her.
Mhm.
You know,
To me,
third place, Ashlyn, she's going to have to step out and do another show. Ari's going to have to do another show. So like the season got a little bit shortened with some of the shows being pulled. This is going to be a very challenging year.
wait, I do think Ari is qualified, right? Because she won Atlantic
No,
here.
No, it was
Battle of the
what?
Bodies
Oh, duh.
before.
That's right. That's
She won
right.
Atlantic with me. That was after the Olympia. Last year, she won Battle of the Bodies, which was a qualifier for the current Olympia.
That's totally right. I should know that. I was at Atlantic this year. Okay, yeah, never
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. So yeah, there is going to be a sprint for Olympia qualifications this year. And I don't know, I haven't paid attention to Ashley Kay, but last year she ate up about 5 of those.
Yeah, I haven't paid attention either. I feel like something tells me, I don't know, maybe this is just my prediction. I feel like she may not do anything until Pittsburgh Pro. I don't
Pittsburgh.
know.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. I think they have a big prize purse this year.
Very
Um,
prize money for bikini compared to what it's been in the past.
yeah, yeah. And you don't know, you never know if Maureen's going to pop into the Pittsburgh in New York. Because she didn't do the Olympia, didn't do the Arnold. So she hasn't done a show since last Arnold. Um,
Yeah.
hasn't been on stage. So assuming she still has the fire to compete, so there's a whole host of competitors. So I'm just going to be really curious at these early shows. The next show I'm going to be at is going to be the Wasatch.
Okay, yeah. I'll be at
I've
Girl
got
Power that
I've
week.
got a pro doing Miami. So I mean I'm going to be at a couple of these shows. I'm gonna be really curious what these lineups look like. Um,
I am too. I'm very curious too. Because Wasatch and Girl Power fall on the same weekend, so I know you'll
that's
be at
going to
Wasatch
split.
Fall. I'll be at Girl Power, so I think they're both pro bikini shows. So,
Hmm.
and there's also a pro bikini show this weekend too, the San Diego
Detroit.
Championship.
Oh, okay. And there's a Detroit showing up real soon too, right?
Um,
I think that's right after Pittsburgh.
oh,
I
that
think.
is March 29th.
Oh, it's 3 weeks, dude. Yeah,
Oh,
March
okay.
20. I knew it was early. I think that's kind of taken the place of the Clash.
Well,
That was
that
usually.
I don't believe that has pro
I think it
bikini.
has bikini. Yeah.
It
Oh,
has
is it like men's physique or something?
Yeah, it
men's
has open
open and
and
classic.
classic
Oh, okay. Never
because
mind.
that's Fuad show.
Gotcha. All right. So yeah, I haven't done the math on US based pro bikini shows, but I know I saw a lot less. So I'll be curious to see what happens as these athletes filter down through the season. Um,
Yeah. I'm excited. I feel like this little like quote unquote dead phase, each year, like January, February, it goes by so fast. And then before we
Mhm.
know it, we're at the like in season again, pro shows, left and right, amateur shows left and right. But I'm excited for that.
yeah, I think it's always exciting when you have a bunch of new faces winning.
Yeah.
And between Derek Lunsford beating Sampson at the Arnold. So now you have 3 Olympia champions in 3 years, 3 Arnold champions in 3 years, and they're all going to be at the Olympia again this year.
And they all
And
just rotated.
and one of them might not even win. There's other guys that can win.
Yep.
It's not just Hottie and Sampson and Derek. Like there's other guys that can win. So that makes bodybuilding exciting. And same thing with bikini. You've had a different champion every year. So, you know, obviously Laura Lee is the favorite if she's on, but now you've got Vanya making a push. You've got Amy who's right there. You know, Issa can always come back and startle people. I still think Ari pulls it all together. She'd be undeniable. So, I mean, it's really exciting to see. I'll also see if Ali can win the Olympia title this year. He looked great. He's very well spoken. Um, it just makes the sport exciting. I think there was a lot of years where it just felt like mail it in.
Right. Yeah, I love seeing kind of not an underdog necessarily, because I don't think that's the right word, but I love seeing somebody come out and win that maybe you weren't expecting to win, right? Like I think that just makes it exciting for coaches, spectators, and athletes. I really do.
Yeah. And I think the message is pretty clear for bikini too. I mean, both the amateur and the pro winner were a great representation of not overly muscular, amazing balance, conditioning, fullness, everything. Because there were competitors in both lineups that were leaner and more muscular, but the best competitor won that fit the criteria. So before anybody gets all worked up with how muscular the girls are getting in bikini, you can't stop people from getting bigger in divisions. They're going to test the limits. It's up to the judges to keep the criteria where it belongs.
Right. Yeah.
And
And
I
just
think,
keep in mind, like I said earlier, you like go to a show in person, stand next to some of these girls too. Like if you get to meet them, they're not as quote unquote big as you may think they are on stage. Like if you really see them in person.
Most are not.
no, pro bikini in their warm-ups, you would like, do you even lift, bro? Like, no,
Yeah.
they're
Like
they're
if
they're
you
110
They're lean, they're
pounds. Yeah, they're
peeled.
tiny little women.
They're
Yeah.
peeled
I
and they're
mean,
hard, but they're
not
not
the
big.
taller ones, but
Yeah, but no, overall great weekend. I'm excited. I feel like this kind of kicks off the season. Now everybody's like really excited, really hyped. So we'll get this. We're actually, those of you who are listening on Tuesday, we are recording this on Monday night. So we're going to
yeah.
get this out really quick for you guys, like literally going to upload it right after we finish. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode and this recap, and definitely curious to hear your guys' thoughts too. So if you have them, chime in on YouTube comments, because I know we all kind of look at those and also respond to those pretty frequently too.
Yeah. And I think for tomorrow's podcast, I think we can discuss some of these topics that I got.
Okay.
You know, I got some good questions. So we're going to record tomorrow for next Monday's release.
Yes. We're
All
giving
right.
you a bonus episode this week, so hopefully you enjoy
That's
it.
it.
Well, thank you guys for doing this podcast with me. I know this was kind of last second, but I didn't want to wait a whole week to get this stuff out. And I think tomorrow everyone's going to be really interested in what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what else we can do, Lexi and Evan? I don't know. I haven't done it in a while, but Instagram lives where we can like both be on them. Have you ever done that?
I've thought about that before. I can try it out tomorrow if you want. I can do a live on my Instagram, like while we're recording. If you guys want me to do that, I can try to do that.
No. I meant separately. I meant like, because you can actually read the questions as they come in. So like we can create a topic, announce at 4 p.m. We're doing an Instagram live and just, I don't know.
We could do that for sure. Another way I was thinking we could do this too is we could actually just go live on YouTube.
I was
One
going to
of these
just
as
say
well,
that too.
and then
We could do
repost
that
it.
as well. Yeah.
That's an easy way we could do something like this.
Yeah, the studio page has been growing. So for those that don't know, we post this on our YouTube studio page. So yeah.
No, that would be good. Maybe I'll turn on the Instagram live
And I will
tomorrow
be
and just say
I will
taking
be
questions.
doing a video of the entire Arnold experience from Wednesday till Sunday. I did make an effort to get clips, so it'll be like a vlog of me coaching and being there. I got some clips of us.
Yeah, I did too. That reminds me, I need to finish editing that. I don't know if I'll be able to do that tonight, but it'll go out within the next couple days. So
Got good lighting right now. The sun went down.
oh, all right, guys. Well, anything else you guys want to say before we wrap it up?
No.
All
Thanks
right.
to everybody that stopped us.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you guys. Oh, and I have to just give a shout out to her because I had this girl come up to me this weekend and I've never gotten this before, but she gave me a handwritten note, like this weekend. Her name is Jacqueline. So shout out to Jacqueline because I know she said she listens to this. And I just thought that was the sweetest thing ever. I've never gotten like a handwritten card, and I will like keep that forever. So
I'm going to talk about it tomorrow, but I got a card from someone, probably maybe the same person, but she was at the bodybuilding show Thursday and she was like, Coach Paul, you're not my coach, but I feel like you are because you've helped me so much. So that was very nice. So yeah, we'll talk a little,
Love it.
we'll give thanks tomorrow.
yes, perfect. All right, guys. Well,
All right,
see you
guys.
all tomorrow, or I'll see you guys tomorrow.